When a huge grizzly bear stormed into that chapel in the small town of Willow Creek, everyone was terrified. A bear coming our way," shouted a man standing at the door. As the massive and imposing animal entered the chapel and roared ferociously, the coffin began to tremble. The scene that followed left everyone stunned by what they saw on that autumn afternoon. Madison, a recent biology graduate, decided to seek refuge in the depths of a nearby forest to relieve the stress accumulated from work. Nature had always been her passion and her escape. Nothing brought her more peace than the sound of leaves rustling in the wind and birds singing. But that day, the forest held something more than its usual serenity. As she ventured down a less-known trail, Madison heard a muffled sound, like a moan of pain. Curious and concerned, she followed the sound to a hidden clearing where she found a grizzly bear with one of its paws caught in a metal trap. She froze in place, her heart racing, not just from surprise but also from fear and pity for the great animal in such a vulnerable state. The bear, sensing Madison's presence, tried to rise defensively, letting out a low growl, which made Madison instinctively step back. Fear and caution battled within her. On one hand, the desire to flee and protect herself; on the other, compassion for the wounded creature in front of her. Taking a deep breath, Madison remembered her first aid classes and how to deal with injured wild animals. She knew the risks, but something inside her, a sense of justice and kindness, wouldn't allow her to simply turn away. She spoke softly, trying to calm the animal. "It's okay, I'm not going to hurt you, I'm going to try to help you, okay?" The bear, although clearly scared and in pain, seemed to sense the young woman's intention, calming slightly. Madison approached carefully, observing the trap and the bear with slow movements and a soothing tone. She examined the trap, looking for a way to open it without causing more pain to the animal. The task was daunting. The mechanism was complex and robust, designed not to yield easily. The bear watched Madison's every move, its eyes expressing a mix of fear, pain, and a glimmer of hope. After what felt like hours, Madison managed to find the trap's release mechanism. Using a piece of wood found on the ground, she applied all her strength to press it. With a loud snap, the trap opened, freeing the bear's paw, which immediately recoiled, limping slightly. Madison stepped back too, giving the bear space to rise. The animal, after a few hesitant steps, stopped and looked at Madison as if to thank her before slowly disappearing among the trees. Trembling, with her heart still racing, Madison sat on the ground, trying to process what had just happened. She had made a difference, saved a life. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows among the trees, Madison felt a deep connection to the nature around her, a sense of purpose and belonging. She knew that this experience would stay with her forever, a reminder of the beauty and fragility of wildlife and the power of an act of courage and compassion. After the initial tension of the encounter and the bear's release from the trap, Madison realized their journey wasn't over. As she watched the animal retreat, she noticed it limped noticeably, leaving a trail of blood on the autumn leaves. Something inside her, a mix of concern and newfound courage, urged her to follow the large grizzly. The bear, perhaps recognizing the presence that had freed it or moved by an instinct Madison couldn't comprehend, didn't flee. Instead, it found refuge in a nearby clearing, where it tried, unsuccessfully, to lick its wounds. With her heart beating to the rhythm of an ancient, courageous song, Madison approached again. This time, she brought a small pocket knife, part of a first aid kit she always carried on her hikes. Approaching a wounded bear went against all self-preservation instincts, but the silent connection that had formed between them encouraged her. "I'm here to help," she murmured, more to herself than the animal, seeking the inner courage needed for the next step. The bear, with its deep brown eyes fixed on Madison, remained still, as if understanding her intentions. She knelt beside it, her heart pounding in time with the animal's heavy breaths. With trembling hands, Madison opened the knife and began to carefully cut away the remnants of the trap still attached to the bear's paw. Each cut was made with the precision of someone who understood the gravity of their action. Madison spoke softly, a whispered monologue intended to calm both the animal and herself. "It's going to be okay," she repeated as the last remnants of the trap fell away under the knife's blade. Once the last pieces of the trap were removed, Madison set the knife aside and examined the bear's paw more closely. The wound, though superficial, needed cleaning to prevent infection. She used some water from her bottle and a clean cloth from the kit to gently clean the affected area. All this time, the bear watched her every move, a silent testament to the trust that had formed between them. When she finished, Madison stepped back, watching the bear cautiously rise and test the weight on its injured paw. A visible improvement in its posture and movement was evident, and a sense of relief flooded Madison. At that moment, the bear turned to look at her, its eyes meeting hers in a silent communication that transcended species barriers. There was mutual recognition, a silent thank you that passed from the bear to the young woman. Madison felt incredibly humbled and connected to this majestic being in a way she never imagined possible. The bond formed in that clearing, under the canopy of ancient trees, was unbreakable. Madison and the bear shared a moment of pure empathy and understanding, a reminder that despite apparent differences, connection and mutual care can flourish in the most unexpected places. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in vibrant colors, the bear gave one last look at Madison before turning and disappearing into the dense forest, leaving behind a young woman transformed by the experience. Madison, now alone, sat for a moment, contemplating what had happened. She knew that this story, this indelible connection with the bear, was something she would carry with her forever, a hidden treasure in the heart of nature. In the days that followed the decisive encounter, an unusual friendship blossomed between Madison and the bear, whom she affectionately named Leo. The young biologist felt compelled to visit the forest daily, bringing with her fruits and other treats she imagined her new friend would enjoy. Leo, in turn, began to eagerly anticipate these visits, greeting Madison with a look that overflowed with recognition and affection. Their interactions were cautious, but the bond between human and animal continued to strengthen. Each encounter strengthened the bond between Madison and Leo. She started reading about bears, learning about their behaviors and needs, determined to understand her friend better. "Did you know bears are incredibly intelligent, Leo?" Madison would talk to him as if expecting a response, watching the bear play with a stick. "They have excellent memories and can be very gentle." Leo, though he couldn't understand the words, seemed to appreciate the company and the sound of Madison's voice. He would come closer, allowing her to briefly touch his fur before retreating in a shy game of approach and distance. This routine continued for weeks, each encounter solidifying the bond between human and animal. However, the unexpected happened. Due to a family emergency, Madison had to travel suddenly, interrupting her visits to the forest without warning. The preparation was rushed, with her mind and heart heavy with the thought of leaving Leo, even temporarily. Madison knew that the farewell, even unspoken, would be felt by both. The bond they had formed was strong, transcending mere physical proximity. On the day of her departure, Madison boarded the plane with a strange feeling, a mix of anxiety for the family situation and preemptive longing for Leo. As the plane gained altitude, her thoughts floated between worry for her family and memories of the afternoons spent in the forest. This emotional rollercoaster, combined with accumulated fatigue, caused Madison to unknowingly slip into unconsciousness. The situation took an unexpected turn when, during the flight, Madison did not awaken from her deep sleep. Her motionless body and unresponsiveness alarmed the crew and passengers. Upon landing, she was immediately taken to the nearest hospital, where doctors, after hurried examinations, mistakenly diagnosed her condition as death. In the first days of her absence, Leo felt disoriented and worried. He waited for Madison at the usual times, but she did not appear. The forest, which once felt like a home full of life and light, now seemed silent and gloomy, reflecting his own unease. Leo began to search the forest for Madison, going to the edges he had never dared to explore, hoping at each step to see the familiar figure of the young woman approaching. But she was not there. As the days passed, Leo's worry turned into a silent resolution. He knew, by some deep instinct, that he needed to find Madison, that something was wrong. In the dead of night, Leo made a decision that would forever change the course of his life. He would leave the forest in search of his human friend. The journey would not be easy for a bear accustomed to the safety of the woods, but Leo's determination was unwavering. He began his journey under the starry sky, driven by a force few could understand, the force of true friendship. As he walked, Leo reflected on the moments he had shared with Madison, remembering her voice, the gentle touch of her hands, and it propelled him to move forward despite fear and uncertainty. News of Madison's absence reached the ears of the locals, who began to notice the presence of a grizzly bear wandering near the forest. Rumors spread, and the community was on alert, unaware of the singular mission motivating the animal's unusual behavior. Meanwhile, far away, Madison missed Leo. The worry in her heart grew each day, fearing for her friend's well-being. She knew that as soon as she could, she needed to return to the forest in hopes of reuniting with Leo and assuring him that the friendship they had formed was unbreakable, no matter the circumstances. As Leo advanced through the unfamiliar landscape, following the scent and intuition guiding him toward Madison, the city ahead emerged as a completely foreign world. His imposing and unusual presence did not go unnoticed, causing a mix of admiration and fear among the inhabitants who spotted him. Rumors of a bear on the loose spread quickly, but no one could predict the true purpose of his journey. Leo, driven by fierce determination, followed the trail he believed to be Madison's to the heart of the city. His scent led him to a chapel where a crowd gathered for the funeral of a young woman mistakenly declared dead due to catalepsy, a rare neurological condition where a person loses consciousness and movement, appearing to be in a state of death. Without understanding the human concept of death, Leo felt a deep anguish permeating the air. Remaining in the shadows, he observed through open windows. His heart sank upon seeing Madison lying motionless in a flower-adorned coffin, surrounded by mournful faces offering prayers and condolences. The sight of his friend in that condition was more than Leo could bear. A primitive and protective force urged him to act, refusing to accept Madison's seemingly sealed fate. With the subtlety of a ghost, Leo approached the chapel entrance. His presence caused immediate commotion. People screamed and ran, astonished at the sight of a grizzly bear invading the funeral. But Leo, focused solely on Madison, advanced undeterred towards the coffin, ignoring frantic attempts to stop him. The confusion was palpable, fear and surprise intertwining in the air. "A bear here?" someone shouted, but Leo remained indifferent to the reactions around him. His attention was entirely on Madison, whose serene appearance contrasted with the chaos unfolding around her. Before the coffin, Leo paused, fixing his gaze on Madison with surprising gentleness for a being of his stature. He lightly touched the coffin, as if trying to understand the barrier now separating them. The onlookers, now keeping a safe distance, watched the scene with a mix of fear and fascination, not understanding the profound connection uniting the animal and the young woman. Refusing to let Madison be taken to her final resting place in the ground, Leo let out a low roar and lamented, an expression of pain and plea that seemed to beg for a miracle. The intensity of his emotions reverberated in the air, touching the hearts of all present. It was then that it happened. Under the astonished eyes of the crowd and the relentless presence of Leo, Madison began to show signs of life. Her fingers trembled delicately, a nearly imperceptible breath stirred her chest, defying the certainties of those who mourned her. The miracle Leo seemed to have wrought for took shape before the incredulous eyes of those present. The perplexity gripped those who witnessed the event. Murmurs of amazement and exclamations of joy mingled with the fresh morning air. The medical team was called in a rush, and under Leo's watchful and vigilant eyes, Madison was gently lifted from the coffin. No one dared to approach Leo now, not out of fear but out of a reverent respect for the extraordinary bond he shared with Madison. As she was tended to, Leo remained by her side, a silent sentinel, until the first clear signs of consciousness returned to her eyes. Madison's recovery was met with celebration and awe. Stories of her unusual friendship with Leo became legends in the town, symbols of an unbreakable bond that had defied death itself. And while Madison regained her strength, Leo stayed nearby, a loyal guardian, patiently waiting for his friend's full return to the land of the living. In the days that followed, as Madison recovered in the hospital, her story with Leo became the main topic of conversation in the town. Journalists, environmentalists, and curious onlookers from far and wide came to see the miraculous bear and the young woman he had saved from a terrible fate. But for Madison and Leo, surrounded by an aura of serenity, none of this mattered. Their reunion was marked by a silent acknowledgement of what they had gone through together, a confirmation that their friendship was as real and vital as the air they breathed. Madison, now fully conscious and recovered, began visiting Leo in the forest even more frequently, reinforcing her commitment to care for him and ensure his safety. The local community, deeply moved by their story, started taking measures to protect the forest and its inhabitants, recognizing the need to coexist peacefully with wildlife. The story of Madison and Leo inspired a conservation movement, led by her, aimed at educating people about wildlife and promoting respect and protection of natural habitats. Leo, meanwhile, continued to be a constant and friendly presence in the forest, often accompanied by Madison and those who joined her on educational walks. The friendship between human and bear, which began with a chance encounter and an act of compassion, grew into a powerful symbol of hope and harmony between species. Madison and Leo shared many more days together, each moment strengthening the mutual understanding and deep respect that defined their unique relationship. Their story, rich with adventures and emotions, continued to be told and retold, a legacy of love and courage that would remain a beacon of inspiration for all who believed in the possibility of peaceful coexistence between humans and wild animals. And as the sun set over the forest, painting the sky with shades of orange and gold, Madison and Leo sat together, a living testament to the unbreakable bond they had forged under the ancient trees, an eternal reminder of the beauty of life in all its forms. What do you think of this story? Do you think they acted right? Leave your comment below to know your opinion, it is very important to us. If you like this exciting story, help us by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Thank you very much for watching us and see you in the next story.